This shit has been blown out of proportion. People have drove the point straight into the corneas of every single person who's been following and supported the development of this beloved game. It has become national news, and now the people demand answers. Answers as to why they were hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray. The people want to know, where the is Banjo 3? Hold on, no, that's the wrong script. Why the fuck that a game that's been in development for 8 years, specifically made for the PS4 and Xbox One, not run on those consoles, CD Projekt Red? I did the quotes, the air quotes, because I mean, it was only in development for around 4 years. It was conceptualized 8 years ago, but that's not how outrage works. By now, everything has been said about the long-awaited open-world RPG Cyberpunk 2077, a game riddled with bugs and glitches that fell victim to its own marketing, PR, management efforts, and even being overhyped. But I think we are to blame as well. Us, the dear gamers. To a certain extent. We should have seen this coming. A game that had delayed its original April release before even the names of the next-gen consoles were known to a later date this same year should have probably raised some flags. A studio that denied reviewers from playing and showing console footage should have raised just a few flags. A studio with a secretive mess of a game should have raised a lot of flags, actually. However, we listened to nothing else but PC reviews of the game. We listened to people with expensive ass setups with $2,000 worth of GPUs, with liquid cooled CPUs, and 10 RGB fans. Because we all know that RGB betters performance. We are to blame. I mean, we don't take the full weight of the blame because we didn't make the game, you know what I'm saying? But not everyone can afford this setup. And not everyone actually wants this setup. Not everybody's too fond of PC gaming. So if a game is marketed to run on a console, it should run on that console. Period. That's it. There's no argument there. And that's the first thing that's wrong with this game, its launch. Now that CD Projekt Red have been ousted as deceitful after conning console players and taking their money, mind you, console players make over 40% of pre-orders. And now that CD Projekt Red is tainted with a reputation of a liar because, I mean, essentially they also lied to Sony and Microsoft throughout the certification process and basically left them out to hang dry. Well, we have to look at the future. Currently, PlayStation has gone ahead and given a huge blow to CD Projekt Red by taking the game off of their digital store and offering refunds to every single person who bought it through their online store. Microsoft is offering refunds as well, but they have yet to take the game off of their digital store. Now, there's a few outcomes to this mess. First, CD Projekt Red refunds every single person who's had issues with the game, loses money, their stock depreciates, which, who cares? I mean, seeing as how this company isn't too bothered about tricking people out of their money, and maybe, just maybe, they might be able to save face. Second outcome is, I was going to give a second outcome here, but now CD Projekt Red has actually promised to refund every single console player unhappy with the game, citing that they would even do it out of pocket. So I'm guessing they're going with the first outcome. We'll see. But even those refund efforts have been riddled with controversy. When CD Projekt Red promised to help refund their game, they dragged Sony and Microsoft into it by directing console players to ask for refunds from those companies through their store. This made it seem like CD Projekt Red had a deal set up with Sony and Microsoft for these kinds of refunds. Well, they didn't. And this is why Sony actually delisted their game, citing concerns about the game's quality. You can't throw Sony under the bus and expect them to just take responsibility for refunding. There's no logic in that. Now, let's go into the second issue of this game, the culture behind it. The lack of communication between management and devs really shines a problem that's too often seen in corporate spaces. Two different groups of people, two departments with different goals and expectations that just don't see eye to eye. One group is hyper focused on the bottom line, and the other is hyper focused on the actual product. Too many times we see, and at least this is from my own corporate experience, how executives overpromise without first consulting with the actual people who will be responsible for producing the deliverables. This leads to customers, clients, just the end user in general, to be expecting paradise and only getting a candy bar. I know it's a terrible analogy, I don't care. Recently, there were reports from inside CD Projekt Red meetings in which executives took internal questions from the staff, and well, one could clearly see what their frustrations were based on. Mismanagement of time, overzealous expectations, unrealistic deadlines, and just a general sense of disregard for quality assurance. One person was actually quoted as asking, how can they make a game about exploitative corporations while forcing devs to crunch? In the famous words of Alanis Morissette, isn't that ironic? And I think that's the main issue at play here, with the culture behind game development and behind the word crunch. Crunch to meet unrealistic deadlines only to keep shareholders happy when you should be aiming to keep your player base happy, since, you know, they're the ones paying the bills. There's a culture of crunch being bred across the gaming industry, and it's become exponentially worse over the past 3 to 4 years. We all remember the PR miscommunication disaster that was Red Dead Redemption 2's development cycle with Rockstar, and with some of their staff saying that 100-hour work weeks were the norm. Actually, that wasn't staff saying that. That was actually Dan Houser, the co-founder of the studio. I mean, crunch has become basically a marketing pitch at this point. People use it to think that that's going to mean a quality game is going to be produced, and that's wrong. Or how about the stress leave term created by EA with Anthem? One developer at EA's BioWare studio actually said, I actually cannot count the amount of stress casualties we had on Mass Effect Andromeda or Anthem. It's become too common, and people are starting to normalize this practice in the gaming industry that it just seems very wrong. It's basically seeped into the working culture. And now finally, let's talk about the biggest problem with this game. Its quality. The problems with Cyberpunk 2077 are not the bugs, not the glitches, not the unloaded assets, not even the lack of optimization. The problem is the suits. The problem is the shareholders. The problem is this mentality from executives that try to capitalize on something that's both technical and subjective. Let's look at it this way. My favorite game of all time is Majora's Mask. Half of its appeal to me is the story, the themes of loss it touches upon, the environments, and the music. However, this game was also rushed through development and actually reused assets from its prequel. The game runs terribly on N64. It runs with extremely choppy frames and, well, I mean, just didn't age pretty well. But regardless of that, it's the subject matter that entices me. Cyberpunk 2077 has a very rich story. I mean, as far as side missions go and supporting characters, and the world does feel very much alive. At least on PC, because the streets look kind of empty on the console versions. So the source material and the subject matter are there, but it's all hindered because of the glitches and bugs. Even if those glitches and bugs didn't exist, the subject matter is still lost in irony because of the studio's practices. They're exploiting their workers. How can you tell a story about corporate exploitation when you yourself are exploiting your workers? What? They rushed this game to prioritize profits with no regard for quality, consequences, and even reputation. It was all a greedy cash grab, and it failed miserably in less than a span of a year. This, in consequence, destroyed the subject matter of the game in the process, at least for me. In conclusion, you have to blame management. You have to blame leadership. You can't blame the developers. You can't blame the players with base consoles. You can't alienate your player base. No one rushed them except money-hungry shareholders. You can't lie to over 40% of the people who bought your game by saying that the game runs well on a platform and then release it on said platform only to people to find out that it constantly crashes and performs way below any acceptable measure. Oh, and don't think these issues are exclusive to consoles. I've racked over 20 hours on PC by now, and even though I'm thoroughly enjoying the game, the bugs have been pretty common, and there's been more than a couple of times where I've actually gotten stuck behind either an invisible wall or I've been soft locked due to a design flaw in the game. I get too carried away with stealth kills, to be fair. Additionally, the game just does not run very well on even mid-range PCs. Look, I'll give CD Projekt Red developers their credit. They were very ambitious with this game, but sometimes we forget to chew before we swallow.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Or is it sometimes we forget to crawl before we run? Look, I don't know, man. This game has really messed up with my mind. There's too many dildos in the game. Hey man, here's to hoping that the devs get the bonus they were promised. CD Projekt Red is able to amend what is essentially the worst game launch in recent history, and we all get to enjoy what is a very good game, all things considered. I'm still unsure if I should do a full-blown review / analysis on this game once I'm done, because it's basically an unfinished game. I would love to give it a fair chance once the dust settles and the problems are ironed out with this game, but so far my review is only get this game if you own a mid to high range PC and you don't think that floating cell phones randomly popping in are an issue at all. Shit, might as well not even do a full review now, because that's all I have to say. But you let me know what you think down below. Do you think that CD Projekt Red should refund every single person who wants a refund? What do you think they could have done better to make this game, you know, the success that it was hyped to be? I mean, me in my opinion, I just hope they fix it. You know, I hope they release the next gen console version or patch soon enough, because that's where all gamers are going to go to in the next 1 to 2 years. Everybody's going to have a PS5, hopefully. Fuck scalping, and Xbox Series X. Fuck resellers. Folks, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. The links to my socials are down below. Please make sure to follow me on Twitch, where I stream some games. I can't stream Cyberpunk 2077 because my PC is a mid-range PC, so it'll just blow up. But where I usually play all these games that I review on this channel. Please make sure to listen to my podcast on Spotify. Just search and report for the podcast. The video version of that podcast is also available on my YouTube channel right here. I always release it either on Sundays or Mondays, depending on when I can get that recorded. I've been True Fernie. Please take care of each other, but most importantly, take care of yourself. CD Projekt Red, we're waiting on something, bro. We're waiting on you. It's been 8 years. It's been 8 years. Come on. Peace.